Another way we can contribute to the oneness, rejecting false stories that are designed to separate us from Jehovah's organization. As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization.
Now, do you recognize, Mr. Jackson, and in asking this question, let me make it clear, I'm not suggesting it's peculiar to the Jehovah's Witness organization. There are many, many organizations in this position. But do you accept that the Jehovah's Witness organization has a problem with child abuse amongst its members?
I accept that child abuse is a problem right throughout the community, and it's something that we've had to deal with as well.
And do you accept that it's presented, I withdraw that, do you accept that the manner in which your organization has dealt with allegations of child sexual abuse has also presented problems?
There have been changes in policies over the last 20 or 30 years where we've tried to address some of those problem areas, and by the fact that we've changed the policy would indicate that the original policies weren't perfect.
And you accept, of course, that your organization, including people in positions of responsibility like elders, are not immune from the problem of child sexual abuse?
That appears to be the case.
And do you accept, Mr. Jackson, that many of the efforts that are being made by different people and organizations to highlight the issue of child sexual abuse and try and find solutions are genuine efforts to improve the situation?
I do accept that, and that's why I'm happy to testify.
And that such efforts are not necessarily an attack on your organization or its system of beliefs?
We understand that too.
You described earlier in your testimony that the work of this Royal Commission is beneficial. Do you accept then that the Royal Commission's efforts are genuine and well-intentioned?
I certainly do. And that's why we came into the Royal Commission hoping that collectively something would come forward that would help us as well as everybody else.
And would you disagree then with anyone who said that the efforts to highlight and deal with child sexual abuse in the Jehovah's Witness Church is engaging in apostate lies?
I guess that's a broad question, because sometimes those who make these accusations make many other accusations as well. But let me assure you, the person making the accusation is not the main thing. The main thing is there some basis to the accusation? And if there is some way that we can improve, the governing body is always interested in seeing how we can refine our policies. You see, Mr. Stewart, could I just emphasize, as a religion, two very strong things we feel. One is we try to keep a high moral standard, and secondly, there's love among the organisation. So we want to treat victims in a loving way.
Good morning, everybody.
Howdy.
It was wonderful meeting you, Emmanuel, and spending the day with you. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we actually had a blast, didn't we? Wink, wink.
Literally.
Literally.
Now, many of you know that we talk a lot to abuse survivors, you know, and who were not only in Watchtower and abused, but many who never were witnesses and were abused in other religions.
Yeah, we seem to be getting a lot of that lately, don't we?
Yeah.
We really do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling right now for Kim and I
Yes.
how many people from like the Baptist religion are contacting us and wanting to share.
Catholics, Mormons.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been a little
Share their-
overwhelming.
Share their abuse stories.
Yes, and so, you know, we all know that, you know, there are abuse stories and victims everywhere, but we deal a lot with the victims one-on-one. Now, what's interesting, and the reason we put up those clips again, is we have been told by several of them that those clips that they watched made them so angry. And the reason is because the governing bodies lying about this, their lies are waking Jehovah's Witnesses up.
Well, this is how stupid Jehovah's Witnesses, your governing body, is. Because you heard Let say, oh, the apostate-driven lies that we're protecting pedophiles. You governing body, don't sit back and think about the implications of words like that have on the mind of the Jehovah's Witnesses that have been abused. They go to these elders and they talk about the abuse, and of course, since there's no two witnesses, it really didn't happen, right, Watchtower?
Or leave it in Jehovah's hands.
Yeah, so what you're telling all of these abuse victims really is they're just a bunch of liars. That's what they hear through the stupid words of your mouth. When you say, oh, these are apostate-driven lies, you're telling each and every one of these victims that they're lying by going to the elders and telling their abuse story to the elders. You're actually telling your own people that have been abused that they're the liars.
And re-victimizing them.
Yeah, and the thing is this is waking them up.
Yeah. And the thing is we hear over and over and over again of these survivors who do go to the elders. And if they're not shut down, and let's look at the other side of the coin too. If their abuser, the perpetrator, confesses that this is what happens, many of these survivors, victims, are then hauled into a judicial committee. Some of them young teenage girls by themselves without their parents, sitting in front of 3 old farts, who are asking them these questions. And then these poor, and I use, girls, I use that pronoun because it's the majority of young girls or young women that are abused. So, I'm not discrediting young boys being abused, just using the pronoun. But these girls, they go in there and then they're either reproved or disfellowshipped for fornication, and this was not their fault.
No.
And this is just mind-blowing, of what is being done to them.
Yeah.
Re-victimized.
So, Watchtower, honestly, you get what you deserve. You honestly get what you deserve for hiding this.
Yes, and many have been asking if that article is real. We have the actual hard copy that I ordered from a website called Mag's Dogs, I believe. And yes, the article is real. And we have read it. And many have said, oh, well, this is pro-Jehovah Witness. But there's some little tiny gems in this article that they are trying to be neutral, but they're admitting that Jehovah's Witnesses are guilty of child abuse and being extremists.
Yeah.
So you may think they're pro-Jehovah Witness. And, I'm not recommending you buy the hard copy because it's getting sold out.
Well, it's the same thing that's online, too, so you can read the article
It's
online.
basically the same thing that is online. We just wanted a hard copy just because I like to keep evidence.
Yes.
I just like evidence. I keep evidence on everything. Speaking of evidence, changing the subject here. Now, many of you may not be familiar with the publication that the Watchtower was doing back in the 30s called The Messenger. Now, if you go to the archives websites, there's many of them that have these, but it's the November 1938 Messenger. Now, I was actually looking for something else and came across this.
Yeah, as we usually do.
That happens a lot. And I wanted to mention here on page 50 of this November 1938, and I'm going to show you, it says here at the top, Bishop regrets publicity over cult meetings. Cult meetings?
Cult meetings.
Why would Watchtower admit their meetings are cult meetings? This blew my mind. And then I started reading about this, and they name names, bishops, reverends who tried to shut down their meetings and conventions.
Yeah.
And it's funny because here at the bottom of the page there is a subheading that says Bishop no lika delight. It actually says that. It is said that the doers of evil hate the light and come not to it lest their evil deeds be discovered. John 3:20.
You mean like exposing the child abuse? You don't want that coming to light, Watchtower? You don't want it coming to light that you really are a cult? Yeah.
Mikey.
My goodness.
Mikey, Watchtower no like a delight.
Delight. Yeah, exactly.
Watchtower no like a delight. Okay. When Bishop Kearney and the self-designated Reverend John Randall, wasn't C.T. Russell self-appointed Reverend?
But aren't the 144,000 in the governing body self-appointed? 144,000 aren't they the self-appointed voice for Christ among the Jehovah's Witnesses? So come on, Watchtower, this is getting way too easy now, because the same words that you used to demonize Christendom back in the day, all these words are all coming back to haunt you. This is how idiotic these men truly, truly are.
Yeah. So when Bishop Kearney and the self-designated Reverend John Randall butted in with their un-American tactics...
Un-American?
Isn't that a political
thing?
thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On the Rochester Convention, they had much light turned on them. No wonder the bishop regrets the unfortunate publicity.
Yeah. Turnabout's fair play, Watchtower.
Yeah. So they call themselves a cult meeting, or they call their meetings a cult meeting. Good job, Watchtower. It was so very unfortunate for them, dragging them out in the open, exposing their inward corruption to view, taking off the veil of hypocritical pretense.
I don't have my glasses on and I can see that.
Well, you see the printer's kind of messed up.
Yeah, the printer kind of did something funky there.
And showing up to all as frightened racketeers trying to dictate what can be listened to in Rochester.
Holy cow. Dictate what can be listened to?
Watchtower, you are hypocrites. Don't you dictate to your, members, the rank and file, what they can view on the internet?
Cult members.
Yeah.
Yeah, cult members.
Oh my God. You tell them they can't go on the internet and watch YouTube videos to see the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
You're doing the same damn thing.
Same thing.
Oh.
Only decades later now.
Now, this is how condescending and gloating... I'm going to blame Rutherford for this because it's from 1938 and it sounds like something he would do.
It is something he would have written.
No one likes to be spanked, and it is especially embarrassing to be spanked where all may see and hear.
You mean like in the Australian Royal Commission? You guys got
On
your
YouTube?
pee-pee spanked on that one.
On YouTube?
Yeah. Good Lord, for the whole world to see.
You're only being exposed and spanked out in the open. That's what all of us do. Oh my God. The bishop and the reverend received a right royal judicial spanking from the Supreme Court. Didn't you receive a right spanking from the Australian Royal Commission? And I want to thank you, the person that sent me that New Zealand now might be investigating and doing their own royal commission. So let's hope and pray, that happens. Everyone saw and heard it, and therefore they do so deeply deplore the unfortunate publicity. Oh my God. Wow. And so they just go on to keep bashing this reverend and this bishop.
Well, they just keep publicly humiliating them is what they're actually doing.
Yeah. So this is the last paragraph. Next time, Bishop, you and your reverends had better stay in your holds and draw the hold in after you. And be assured that even there, Jehovah's executioner will locate you.
Hey, Watchtower, you better hide in your little bunkers in Warwick and close the doors, and you better hope that Jehovah's executioner don't find you either, jackasses.
Oh, good Lord.
God, this is too easy this late in date to take what they said decades ago and point the finger at Christendom, and now these articles are now directly pointing the finger at you. See, what you guys were doing way back then, back through the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, it's all coming back to haunt you because you couldn't keep your goddamn mouth shut when you were pointing the finger at Christendom. Now all the fingers are being pointed at you worldwide, Watchtower, worldwide.
Speaking of Christendom, I should make kind of a correction because we were accused of something to do with Christendom. That just reminded me.
Okay.
Yeah. In one of Mikey's rants, he may have said that all Christians were being seduced. And we wanted to make a correction on that that's not entirely true. You know, Mikey gets a little riled sometimes. And we mentioned that all churches are bad and nobody should go to churches. That's what we're being accused of. No, we've never said that. There are some really good churches, and we always tell people who email us and stuff, you know, try to find a church. Maybe a small community one, you know, maybe one down the street, you know. We don't tell anybody not to go to churches. You know, churches are very good to interact with people, to make new friends, you know, socialize and everything else. You know, all we mean is be careful that you don't get sucked into another cult. And that's all we mean by that.
And that's the biggest thing, is that when you wake up from Watchtower, you learn to identify religious cults, religious cultism. You hear the words from from these pastors sometimes in these churches that are cultic. Learn to identify those words, because if you don't, you're going to end up being disappointed in the end, because you're going to feel like, oh my God, how did it happen again? How come I didn't see the warning signs? Because you're not training yourselves to hear these cultic, captivating words, such as, well, make sure when you wake up that you get them into the King James so they can find the real Jesus. Those are cult, seductive words, because if you truly believe, if you truly, truly believe in the grace of God through Jesus Christ, then guess what? It doesn't matter what Jesus you believe in, because you've already been saved by grace. But when you hear these words, now make sure that you come to the real Jesus. These are just words, again, that suck you into another cult.
Real Jesus?
The real Jesus. Learn to separate, because if you've been saved by grace, then guess what? You don't really need to find the real Jesus, in my opinion.
Your humble, crazy opinion.
Well, I want to... The Good Earth Tea today says nothing is impossible. The world itself says I'm impossible, and that's from Audrey Hepburn. You know, here again, guys, you can do what you want. Like my daughter said in her video, I really don't care. But learn to hear the cult seductive words. Well, you know what? You know, get them into this version of the Bible, get them into this version of that Bible so you can find the real Jesus. Jesus is about freedom, guys. Read your New World Translation, and if you can't find freedom in the words that are written there, then it just becomes impossible.
Well, like we've mentioned before, we honestly believe that Jesus calls his sheep to him.
My sheep know my voice.
Yeah, and so they're going to hear his voice no matter what Bible you use.
No matter whether you think he's a real Jesus or fake Jesus. And one of the only reasons why Kim and I keep doing this, especially when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, is because the danger is imminent. Because again, you can be in a car wreck tomorrow lying on that hospital operating table, and the doctors are trying to save your life by giving you life-saving blood, and what are you doing? Nope. I want to die to Jehovah. I want to prove faithful to Jehovah. Yeah. It's, my goodness, this whole nonsense, attrition of words, I guess, could go on forever. because there are those that have their, this is the truth, this is it, this is the Jesus that you must believe in, then you don't believe in grace.
Well, they also have a personal agenda against us. So,
Well, of course.
you know what? If anybody doesn't like our videos,
Shut them off!
move along.
Shut them off!
Nothing to see here. Also, I wanted to say, I'm sorry, Linda. I had mentioned in that kids talk that we had done the clip from the Kingdom Hall. I couldn't remember who had given me, the link to that talk. So thank you, Linda. I finally have a Post-it note with her name. We
Shout out
appreciate it.
goes to you.
Yes. So I appreciate it, and she said that traumatized her, that she still hasn't been able to watch one of their talks. So, you know what? You don't have to. That's why we do these videos, so we can just watch them for you. We'll take the bullet for you. We'll take one for the team and do these clips and watch it for you. Okay, now I want to thank Faye so much, and I'm going to put the link down below to their latest video, because they have leaked some documents. There is the Circuit Assembly Guidelines, and there is the Circuit Overseer Guidelines for 2017. So I've got a few of them printed up here from the Circuit Overseer's book. It was 130 pages, Mikey.
Oh, you mean to tell me they need that much direction?
Yeah. You know what? Maybe it is my glasses dirty or something. I'm going to get my other ones here so I can see. Either that or my eyesight's getting worse for reading all this Watchtower crap. Okay. Of course, now I can't see the screen. All right. Here in chapter 5.
Let me help you out and turn it towards you while you read the screen.
Oh, it's okay. I'll get these for reading this one. Recommending the dissolution of a congregation. Now, this was kind of interesting because they're not really coming out and saying, it's because of low publishers, but they do mention when considering the circuit overseer dissolving a congregation for better use of the kingdom halls. It says, to assist a congregation that is struggling because of its small size or lack of qualified brothers to take the lead. So that was kind of telling because of congregation's small size. Okay, now think about this, Mikey. If the congregation was a certain size, let's say 100 publishers, and growing, this is when they would have made a new congregation.
Yeah.
So because they're losing members, that is why they have to change and decide on these factors.
Well, look at the first sentence. Because of changing economic conditions. Well, yeah, because Watchtower's economic conditions are changing. It isn't the world's economic conditions that are changing. It's your economic conditions that are changing because you're shrinking, you're imploding, and you don't have as much cash flow to work with now, do you, Watchtower?
Yeah. All right, now going on. Now I know many of us are familiar with the inner workings of the organization and as far as financial and expenses and all of that, especially those of you who are elders and ex-elders, or accounts, overseers and stuff. You guys already know this.
Well, see, the thing is, there's a little catchword among, the elder bodies. And in fact, when we was with Manuel Friday, we were kind of like mocking this. But it's, hey, brothers, now these are confidential matters.
Not anymore.
These elders are waking up, and your confidential matters are now becoming public revelations.
Especially when you've got the circuit overseer guidelines available.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, chapter 9 is talking to the circuit overseers about expenses and reimbursements. Now, we all know that whatever congregation they're serving at the time that they do their expenses.
Yeah.
But many may not know the actual details of what all expenses are paid. So we're just going to cover a few things here. All right, number 1. Customarily, the congregations are very conscious of their privilege to receive circuit overseers.
Oh, what a privilege.
So it's your privilege.
Privilege. Does that mean that if I have a problem with a circuit overseer, that it's my privilege to kick him in the ass if I need to?
Yes, dear. The generosity of the brothers is much appreciated and should never be abused or taken for granted. Most brothers who work secularly must carefully watch their budget to care for their expenses. Circuit overseers likewise must carefully monitor their expenses so as not to impose an expensive burden on the congregations and circuits.
Well, but let's make another resolution and let's bump that up another $2 per publisher. All in favor, say aye.
It is important that circuit overseers avoid being extravagant or giving the appearance of wanting the best of everything in the way of food, clothing, apartment furnishings, the latest electronic devices, vacations, and so forth. In this way, they will avoid any cause for stumbling and will set an example for pioneers and others endeavoring to seek the kingdom first. They even mention green handshakes in here. Of course, they don't call them green handshakes, but the generosity of the brothers.
Yes.
Expenses incurred during a visit to a congregation. Number 2, circuit overseers may submit for reimbursement general weekly expenses, including some food expenses, routine office expenses, transportation expenses, and certain moderate personal expenses. Such expenses should be kept as low as possible. These are explained in greater detail below. You're going to say something?
I was just going to say the reason why they want them kept down as low as possible so that the rank and file will have more to contribute into their little, kingdom boxes. I don't even remember what they used to call kingdom contribution, worldwide work contribution boxes. There we go.
Well, there's 3 of them.
Yeah, but I haven't used those words in a long time.
You kind of lose that theocratic language.
Exactly, yeah. It needs to be flushed down the toilet with Watchtown Bible Tract Society.
You must have been working out in your shop,
Yeah,
weren't you?
I was working on my wood lathe this morning.
I was going to say, you got sawdust on your face.
Sawdust in my face. I guess it's better than having a sawdust between my teeth, huh?
Wow. A circuit overseer may wish to use personal contributions he receives to cover these expenses, a.k.a. green handshakes. Yep. Of course, if publishers make personal contributions and specifically indicate that the funds are to be used for expenses incurred during the week, it would be well for the circuit overseer to have this in mind when submitting his expenses. So they expect you to take some out of your green handshake money to pay for your personal expenses instead of asking Watchtower to reimburse you or the congregation. Number 3. The congregation normally offers to provide some meals for the circuit overseer. Some. And we've had the privilege of hosting circuit overseers, and, some very nice, kind circuit overseers and their wives, had fun. However, it is up to him to decide whether to accept any invitations to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the brothers. At times, he may want to eat his meals alone with his wife in harmony with the schedule of the visit. If so, reasonable food expenses may be submitted. So if he decides to take his wife out on a date in a restaurant, guess who gets the bill? Okay, then it just goes in to talk about dietary restrictions. Okay, number 4. Routine office expenses include telephone calls, stationery, postage, ink cartridges, and other expenses that are incurred in connection with theocratic assignments. If such expenses are higher than usual, rather than asking one congregation to cover them, the circuit overseer should divide them among the congregations or submit them at a circuit assembly. However, it would not be appropriate to submit expenses for cable or satellite television service, personal long-distance telephone calls, or the purchase or lease of computer equipment, photocopiers, and the like. If internet or mobile telephone service is necessary to communicate with congregations, and it is, and with the branch office, the expense incurred may be covered either by dividing the cost among the congregations or submitting them at the circuit assembly. This is why circuit assembly costs are so high, because you're paying for every damn thing the circuit overseer needs. If the congregation or circuit are unable to cover the cost of internet or mobile telephone service, it may be submitted to the service department for reimbursement. Now, I know that the wives, my goodness, they have to go through so much to be a circuit overseer's wife. Because, I've been friends with circuit overseer's wives, and,
we've heard a few complaints.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. See, when you get to be friends with a circuit overseer's wife, then you start hearing all the complaints and their bitching. And I don't blame them a minute for bitching about stuff, because you know what? They put up with a lot.
Well,
and I mean a lot of crap.
They're supposed to be the submissive, good little wife.
Yeah, so while the circuit overseer gets everything, it goes on about the wife. Additional expenses related to internet or mobile telephone service for the wife of a circuit overseer would also be a personal expense not submitted to congregations or circuits. So they don't pay for the wife.
Nope.
Okay, then it talks about transportation expenses. Number 6, certain moderate personal expenses such as dry cleaning, shoe repair, and haircuts may be submitted to the congregation at the time the elders request a list of expenses for the week.
Well, we want our regional managers looking good and everything else, so, why not let Watchtower pay for that?
So Jehovah's Witnesses, when you give the circuit overseers these green handshakes, you may think that this includes personal expenses like haircuts, dry cleaning, and stuff like that. No, it's submitted to the congregation, so you're paying for it twice.
Exactly. You Jehovah's Witnesses comprehend that? You're actually paying for it twice, because the Watchtower is going to reimburse them, and then you're giving them green handshakes.
Yeah. Well, then it goes on to say that nevertheless, these would be minor expenses, and in some cases, the circuit overseer may choose to use personal contributions and the monthly allowance to help cover them.
But does that say anything about the wives' haircuts?
No.
It's just for the men. It's just for the brothers.
Yeah.
It's just for the brothers.
Yeah. Wow. Now, I happen to know of a circuit overseer and his wife that all of the green handshakes, they didn't use that for personal expenses.
No, they didn't.
Put every penny of that in their personal bank account. And when they retired from the circuit work, guess what? They had over $100,000 in the bank.
Yep. That's a little.
So, Watchtower, how does that make you feel about suggesting they use some of this green handshake money, to pay for the personal expenses, and they don't? They make you and the congregation pay for all of it.
Yep.
Procedure for submitting expenses.
No wonder they're losing money.
Yeah. The circuit overseers are taking advantage of you.
Well, see, what's happening is that since there's less and less rank and file, there's less and less green handshakes, which means the circuit overseer have to turn in more and more of these expenses to Watchtower. So Watchtower's footing the bill, while they're flapping their jaws about, the apostate-driven lies. It's Watchtower can't win. As a corporation, they're on the beating end of the stick, aren't they? Or no, the receiving end of the stick.
Well, the
now.
thing is because there's less and less contributions from, the publishers into the kingdom halls, well, that's just going to trickle up.
Yeah.
Because, then they can't afford as much for circuit overseers, which means Watchtower has to keep footing the bill more and more for their expenses. You're going to have to start consolidating more circuits.
Well,
you're already doing that, but...
Well, here's the thing. Ludwig, the XJW out of Germany, I forget his last name.
Or France?
Yeah, if you go to his channel, he's actually expressing something that Watchtower probably really doesn't want to make made public right now, is the fact that they built one assembly hall, and now there's 3 countries using one assembly hall.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put a link to that video down below so that you guys can hear.
I will make a note.
So you can hear exactly what he's saying. One assembly hall for 3 countries. Watchtower, are you guys suffering that much now?
Well, actually, it's a really good video, and I suggest you watch it because he's also talking about one of the governing body.
One of the
potato head.
One of the potato heads.
Or Sanderson.
Sanderson, I think it is.
One of them. One of these clowns. They're giving the dedication talk for this, and they're preparing the rank and file that they are going to be arrested. And he even mentions, oh, well, you know, I could go back to the United States, and you're going to hear that all the governing body have been arrested. You know, are you going to believe the media about these lies? You know, when we have done nothing?
We've done nothing.
Ridiculous! Governing body, you deserve to be in jail.
If you guys have done nothing, we wouldn't be in front of our camera exposing all of this bullshit you guys have been throwing at people for decades.
Your lies and slander alone should make you guilty of going to jail. And these lying under oath to the Australian Royal Commission, Jackson should be hauled to prison.
Yep.
Okay, procedure for submitting expenses. We're getting distracted here.
Yes.
Circuit overseers should not take the initiative in requesting that a congregation reimburse them for expenses incurred during the week. They may submit expenses to a congregation only when the elders request these. An itemized list of expenses together with the receipts should be provided whenever expenses are submitted for reimbursement. Number 8, if a congregation does not provide accommodations or reimburse the circuit overseer for food, fuel, routine office expenses, and moderate personal expenses, he may submit his expenses for these items to the service department for reimbursement using the circuit overseer's monthly report. So is it going to get to the point where Watchtower is going to say, oh, we're not going to pay for that, we're not going to pay for that?
Well, more than likely they are.
Yeah.
More likely. How many pages did you say this was?
The booklet is 130 pages.
Oh my goodness. Hope we're not boring everybody, because it's sure as hell boring me.
Well, you can leave, you know. You don't have to sit here and listen to me do all this. I listen to you.
I know.
Covering other personal expenses. Other personal expenses such as clothing, cosmetics, vitamins, over-the-counter drugs, insurance for personal property, travel trailers, and their tow vehicles or life insurance should not be submitted to congregations or circuits for reimbursement. Neither should requests for reimbursement be submitted for expenses incurred during personal time away. Rather, they should be covered with funds from personal contributions received. So if they go on vacation, we know Gene
yes.
Fields, that, you know, a multimillionaire in our Cottonwood congregation, paid for his extravagant vacations to like the Philippines, the Bahamas,
Singapore, which one of those Chinese countries?
Wherever.
Yeah. Oh, and then of course, you know, the brother that was doing this got special privileges.
Of course, he gave talks at every assembly and convention.
Every assembly, yep.
I wonder why.
Yeah, just keep throwing that vacation money at the circuit overseers, guys, and you'll keep getting all of these privileges.
Well,
that's how the game's played.
Yeah. Personal contributions, monetary gifts, aka green handshakes, should not be made to circuit overseers from congregation or circuit funds. Likewise, it is not appropriate for individuals in a congregation or circuit to solicit money from brothers and sisters and then provide this as a gift to the circuit overseer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when Gene Fields was leaving our circuit and they were renting a hall to have a big going away party. That's what you were thinking, isn't it?
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this, because I'm going to add a little something into this afterwards to show how screwed in the mind some of these elders are.
I seem to remember an elder coming and asking our family to donate at least $20 towards this party.
So they could have a little going away party for Gene Fields. And then, of course, this was all about the same time that I wrote to the Watchtower and Babel Crap Society about all of the special favors that I was witnessing firsthand, and how I stood up to, this elder that was trying to get us to contribute to Gene Fields' going away party. And I said, no, brothers, we've already been instructed not to do this for circuit overseers. I stood up once again to these idiots just to be hauled in the back room and that same dumbass elder say, he's died. May God rest his soul. May he rest in peace. And then he He says, now imagine how I felt when my brothers didn't go to that going away party. That's right. Kim and I and a few others didn't go away to this going away party because we already knew that Watchtower said not to do it. And all of these brothers in the congregation all did it. Watchtower, you can say what you want in these stupid little handbooks, but your circuit overseers are not going to say, no, brothers, we have directions not to, participate in these going away parties.
Idol worship.
Idol worship. He embraced it wholeheartedly. And I just could not forget one prominent elder's wife. Oh, isn't Gene Fields the greatest? He's the best circuit overseer we've ever had.
We had nothing but problems with him.
Yeah, nothing but. That's why I had to write to the society about him, which, a little meeting between myself and the next circuit overseer and a district overseer incurred, and I kind of shut them guys down too.
But Mikey, they give instructions just for those situations. It's the next sentence.
But nobody follows it. I don't give a shit what this book says. Nobody follows it.
Such genuine Christian generosity on the part of the giver and acceptance on the part of the circuit overseer is a private matter that need not concern others. So it need not concern you.
Oh, but imagine how I felt when my brothers didn't show up to that going away party. It's because we were doing what we was instructed by Watchtowers. It was them idiots that broke the rules. Jeez.
We went and did something else as a family and we had fun.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one, business ventures.
Wait a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a going away cake? How is that any different than a birthday cake?
Oh, well, it is different because this was an idol worship cake.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's
so
right.
it's different.
This was an idol worship cake.
You can't bring glory to yourself for your own birthday. You want to be humble and not accept, attention to yourself for a birthday. But it's okay for a circuit overseer to get this attention for a going away.
So that I stand corrected. We probably should have gone. So this is a belated act of worship. Oh, Gene Fields, you're the best. You are the greatest. Oh, Gene Fields, may you end up in the school teaching JWs in Florida. Yeah, that's where you ended up, in Florida. You were just the best. My God, just bare your butt cheeks now and I will kiss them from now until Armageddon comes. Oh, Gene Fields, you are simply the best.
That's enough.
Not. God.
How am I supposed to go on when you get me laughing?
I mean, do you guys see how ridiculous this was from our perspective? Now, looking back at all of this, that Cottonwood congregation actually became a congregation that idolized Gene Fields. And you know what? I have to admit, because when he first came in, and I'll tell everybody where this came from, because that Cottonwood congregation was that man's first assignment ever, and we all, myself included, got sucked into it.
He was very charismatic, wasn't he?
Oh my God, very charismatic.
Charming.
But I'll tell you what, for me, because I was appointed as a ministerial servant at that time. And this was an absolute eye-opener for me, because this also went a long way for me to see the political bullshit that the elder body and the circuit overseer, district overseer, all of the little inner politics, the inner workings. And it was interesting because I was out in service with this man. Of course, I was trying to kiss his ass too, to become an elder. But you didn't hear me say that.
Yes, we did.
But I was in service with him, and this was the very, very, very first time I ever went out in service with this circuit overseer, Gene Fields. And we were in the back seat, and the two in the front went out to the door, and I just asked Gene Fields, I says, Gene Fields, I'd like to become a circuit overseer one day. What do I have to do to attain that goal? And I don't remember if those were the exact words or not, so you may or may not want to quote me on that. But I remember his response. He said, learn everything you can about how the organization operates. Now, I've said this before in a video, maybe 3-4 years ago.
And that's where we started learning.
But
And it's like, oh crap.
holy shit! What about helping the brothers from a ecclesiastical perspective? What about learning everything about the life of Jesus Christ? What about learning how to help the brothers deal with their problems in the
Study the Bible more.
No, it was all about focus on how the organization operates. And for me, that was, you know what? I think I dare say that's when my eyes were completely opened up, because then I could see even more in depth the bullshit from the body of elders.
Well, I know it wasn't just us that had problems
No, it
with
wasn't us.
Brother
Only.
Fields, because if you go watch Randy M's YouTube channel, and he's got some recordings from a circuit overseer and a district overseer, and guess who the district overseer was?
It's the same
Our
idiot.
favorite circuit overseer.
Yeah, same idiot I'm talking about now.
Yeah. Okay.
So Watchtower, just keep your circuit overseers in the organizational mood or mode, because when they're sitting privately and someone else comes up to a circuit over and says, "Brother so-and-so, I'd like to reach out for a circuit overseer one day. What do I need to do?" You just keep having them say, "Oh, you need to learn everything you can about how the organization operates." Because sooner or later, that's going to come back and it's going to bite you in the ass, because those little seeds of doubt are actually being planted at that moment, because it was planted in my mind.
Okay, moving on. Business ventures. Circuit overseers should not become involved in commercial business ventures. It would be inappropriate for circuit overseers to use their theocratic position or contacts to profit financially. Oy. I'm not even going to get into that one. Personal expense account, which for here on out will be called PEA. Personal expense account. Now you would think the circuit overseer would just have their own bank account in their name, privately, away from... Now this I didn't know about. So this was something I didn't personally know about and hadn't heard of before. And it's like, something doesn't sound right to me. A personal expense account is made available to those in special full-time service. Credits are made to one's PEA every January 1st, based on the number of years that an individual has spent in full-time service. The month after a person has passed the 5 or 10-year mark, the amount of his credit is raised. There is no ceiling on funds that may accumulate in the account. A brother in his first year of circuit work who did not transfer from some other form of special full-time service will receive credit to his PEA account for each full month he serves in the circuit work. For example, if a brother begins circuit work in the middle of October, on January 1st he would receive a credit to his PEA only for the months of November and December. So even though he started working in October, they're not going to pay him for that.
Yeah.
How low can you get? However, if a brother transfers from one form of special full-time service to another, his PEA remains intact. This account is for personal needs, incidental medical expenses, and so forth. To make a withdrawal from one's PEA account, a personal expense account requisition should be sent to the accounting department, even if you want to make a withdrawal. So technically, that money really isn't yours to withdraw at any time. You have to do a requisition form
be approved.
to Watchtower and be approved.
Yep.
Circuit overseers? That would scare the hell out of me, because they could take your money at any time.
Yep. Anytime.
They even cover taxes.
Well, it's because it's a non-profit organization.
Yeah.
Right.
As members of a united theocratic order, and I was going to say they do have a separate corporation, I can't remember the wording exactly, something about the religious order.
Yeah.
But it's a separate corporation where all of the circuit overseers and special pioneers and missionaries fall under. And that's where you have to take the vow of poverty.
Yep.
As members of a united theocratic order, it is important that circuit overseers comply with appropriate legal requirements. This is particularly so with regard to income tax reporting. Yes, you have to report your income to the IRS. In this matter, it is imperative that as a body of circuit overseers and representatives of Jehovah's organization, all carry on their affairs so as to remain irreprehensible, returning Caesar's things to Caesar.
Irreprehensible? How does that apply when Jeffrey Jackson's in front of the Australian Royal Commission?
Well, this is talking about money. The branch office will assist circuit overseers with their tax reporting needs.
Well, that's because they have accountants.
Well, I was going to say, well, I'll read this sentence first. This relieves them of having to prepare tax returns on their own or seek other help. So they're even kind enough to fill out your tax reforms for you.
See, that's
Tax return forms. There we go.
That's why you want to learn everything you can about how the organization operates.
Having tax returns prepared with this assistance will minimize any problems that might otherwise arise. So I guess if a circuit overseer, I wonder if it works the same way. Like if you have an accountant and you're audited by the IRS, your accountant goes with you to explain, why they filled out your tax return the way they did. And,
Could be. Could very well be.
So I wonder if that's ever happened to where
I'm sure it has.
had a whole watchtower into the IRS with them.
Yep.
Interesting. Oh, this is a good one. I find this interesting that this is chapter 13. Now, 13 is supposed to be the unlucky number.
Oh, yeah.
Bad luck and, if you're superstition and all that.
Sorry about your luck that this is chapter 13.
Judicial matters. Okay, now some of this I can skip. Number 2, though, if the circuit overseer's help is requested with a specific case and there does not appear to be clear direction in the scriptures or in other published material, he should encourage the elders to contact the service department. For example, when questions arise concerning cases that involve scriptural freedom to remarry, he should always direct the elders to contact the service department. And this is where Mark and Cora did that great video about, being scriptural free to remarry. Even though you're legally divorced, if the elders feel that you are not scripturally free, they will make your life a living hell.
Yes, they will. I'm so glad that so many Jehovah's Witness elders are waking up and seeing the bullshit that this is.
Hi, guys.
That this all is. I've had many private conversations with ex-elders, and I'm glad to hear that these guys recognize this is all, but it's bullshit.
Look at how many we've talked to that have to stay in for family.
Yeah, and
they're fully awake and think, no, this is all BS.
Yep.
Okay, number 4. At times, it has been necessary to arrange for an interpreter to assist with judicial cases. This chap my hide. If there is an elder in the circuit who is proficient in the languages involved, he can serve as an interpreter. So they prefer an elder. If no elder is available in the circuit overseer may check with nearby circuits for an available elder, or he may contact the service department for assistance. Now, this following sentence is what chapped my hide. While a sister may be a good interpreter, it is not appropriate to use a sister as an interpreter for judicial cases. So, when they're talking to the Australian Royal Commission, say, well, maybe it might be a good idea to have a sister there for emotional support and stuff. And they're like, we might consider something like that.
No, they won't.
They can't even use them to interpret for a judicial hearing.
Well, and here's the thing. It goes right back to that one word, confidential. Hey, Jehovah Witness elders, I got news for you. We all know that you talk to your wives about these confidential matters because we hear it in the field service. So while you elders are flapping your jaws, breaking confidential matters, your wives are doing the same thing.
Okay, this next one is really important. Cases involving child sexual abuse. When the body of elders decides to form a judicial committee to meet with one accused of child sexual abuse, the coordinator of the body of elders will first contact the circuit overseer. The circuit overseer should designate an experienced elder who is on the special committee list to serve as chairman of the judicial committee, and when needed, another elder from the list to serve on an appeal committee. Also, when an adult who has been disfellowshipped for child sexual abuse applies for reinstatement, the coordinator of the body of elders will contact the circuit overseer and provide the names of those who served on the original committee. Thereafter, the circuit overseer should determine whether the original chairman should continue to serve as such or whether a different elder who is on the committee, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but I wanted to get this here to those with a record of past misconduct. Chapter 17.
So if the child sexual abuse isn't a problem, but apostate generated lies, then why do they have details or steps outlining how to handle these matters? So they're not apostate generated lies, Jehovah's Witnesses. Otherwise, there wouldn't be guidelines in these books.
And if I looked at this correctly, this was the longest chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's apostate driven lies and there's no real bad problem with child abuse in the organization, it just happens to be the longest chapter. Those with a record of past misconduct. The circuit overseer needs to check with the elders about any past reproofs or disfellowshippings of those being recommended for appointment. If a brother who is reproved during the last 3 years or reinstated during the last 5 years is being recommended, the circuit overseers should give careful consideration to the following.
So, we have to remember that who makes the appointments now? It's not the governing body, it's now the circuit overseers.
Yeah, it's not the service department,
right.
It's not the body
it's
of
the
elders.
Circuit overseers.
Yeah. Number 1, whether an announcement was made to the congregation in case of a reproof and the degree of notoriety involved. Meaning, was it on the news if it was a child abuse case? Number 2, when the last restriction was removed. And 3, whether the brother has regained the respect of the congregation. Number 13. Number 13 again. Circuit overseers need to be careful about reappointing brothers too soon after being removed as elders or ministerial servants because of wrongdoing. A quick reappointment under those circumstances tends to minimize the seriousness of the wrongdoing in the eyes of the wrongdoer and may be disturbing to those who remember his bad course. Just like those of us who find out about elders who are child abusers.
Yeah.
And it's on the news. Brothers removed for wrongdoing have to live down the reproach they brought on themselves and the congregation before they can be reappointed. This involves building up a convincing record of righteousness that serves to counterbalance the effect of the past wrong. Depending on the gravity of the wrongdoing, this might take 5, 10, or more years. In cases of great scandal, a brother might not live the reproach down sufficiently in his lifetime so as to qualify as an elder or ministerial servant.
That whole paragraph right there disqualifies the governing body for serving as a governing body. That paragraph alone disqualifies those idiots in New York.
Now remember, we were just talking about, if someone is scripturally free to remarry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they cover this again. Number 14, a brother who enters into an adulterous marriage would not qualify to serve as an elder or ministerial servant at least until the death or remarriage of his former mate, if ever.
Yeah.
Neither would... Oh, I guess I forgot to print up the next page. Well, you guys will just have to look and see. Okay, chapter 22, moving on, personal time away. Basic days of personal time away. Now, I personally feel that this is not fair to circuit overseers and their wives. Because, let's face it, they basically work 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. They may take 1 day a week, for traveling to their next congregation or for personal time or whatever. But this isn't fair. I don't think they should, as much as they work. Because I do know they do work hard and long hours. Basic days of personal time away. Number 2, 12 days of personal time away are automatically credited to each person at the beginning of each service year, September 1st.
So it's about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and can be used anytime thereafter. Additional days of personal time away, and you can get seniority credit, so you can get extra days. And they have a chart of ages and seniority and.
What a blessing from Jehovah.
All right, now this kind of chapped my hide too. Chapter 23, number 7, wives of circuit overseers. A circuit overseer's wife should not be away from the assignment unless her husband has first communicated with the service department and obtained permission.
You mean to tell me that the circuit overseer has to surrender his headship to the service department as to whether his own wife can have a personal day off or not?
Okay. Now, are they talking about her assignment, every week, if she's sick or something? Or are they talking about maybe just taking a couple of days when she starts her monthly and is not feeling well? I mean, really, if you're circuit overseer's wife, let's say you have really bad monthlies and you're basically in bed for a few days. Do you have to call the service department? Hey, my wife's on her period. Can she take a few days off? I mean, this is how ridiculous this is. I'm just using this as an example. Ridiculous. This is so unfair to the wives of circuit overseers. And that's where I have an issue. Her presence makes a meaningful contribution to the week's visit. As with the circuit overseer, it is recommended that the efforts of his wife be directed toward those in the congregation that is being served that week. So if she has maybe a sick mother or has to go take care of some family obligation, she can't just take the day off. They have to contact the service department. Oh my God, how controlling.
Makes you wonder how many times they actually say, no, you have your wife there with you.
Well, look at what the elders did to our daughter Shiloh when she was regular pioneering.
I know.
Basically the same thing. You can't take monthly days off for having your period. Checklist when considering appointments and deletions. This is in Appendix D. Have they viewed pornography? See index to letters for bodies of elders, S22. Accusation of child abuse. See index to letters for bodies of elders, S22. Then they have, before making appointments of elders, please also consider the following: shepherding, teaching, past difficulties. Now, this is where Mike and I have some personal comments and issues with this one. Before deleting an elder or ministerial servant, please consider the following: sufficient scriptural disqualification. And they're referring it to the Elder's Manual, Chapter 3, paragraphs 15 to 21. Okay, sufficient scriptural disqualification. Now, we know many child abuse cases that it's been kept hush-hush, and that those who have a position who have abused a child sometimes keep their position to re-offend. The next one, 2 witnesses to establish an accusation. Oh my God. So this means, in my humble opinion, that if there's no 2 sufficient, or 2 witnesses to establish an accusation, then he can keep his position and he's not to be deleted.
Well, that also might apply this way too, is that if you have an elder that has a business and he's known in the community for having bad or shady business transactions,
I know who you're thinking about.
Within the community, because I've experienced this personally. I knock at the door. You always have somebody with you at the door, so you knock, knock, knock. Good morning. My name is Mike. This is my brother so and so. We're here, to present you. Oh, wait. Let me get a little better prepared. We're here to present you the good news of the kingdom. You try to, engage the householder into a, biblical conversation. But long before you can get to that point, the person will say, I will never become a Jehovah Witness as long as so-and-so is in your congregation, because he screwed me out of this so-and-so business deal, this such and such business deal. And you've got a freaking witness right here that hears that out of the mouth from a worldly person. he got involved with a Jehovah Witness elder that screwed him out of a business deal. So what do? You go up, hey, brother so-and-so, can I talk to you in private? And then you explain this, and guess what? Well, hey, you know what? You can't believe the worldly person.
You have to take the word of your brother who's an elder over a worldly person.
Yeah.
And even though this happens over and over again, well, as long as so-and-so, the owner of so-and-so business is defrauding insurance company and lied to me about doing the work and not actually doing it, I will never become a Jehovah's Witness.
But the timing is impeccable because, you see certain little gifts go the way of circuit overseers after that conversation with an elder. You see certain little gifts showing up inside the Kingdom Hall, like, I don't know, high dollar laser copier. Certain elders are now getting their car painted or mechanic work done. After somebody like me goes to an elder and say, hey, you wouldn't believe what I heard in service. It's like, holy shit. It's like, I saw this continuously.
So why didn't we wake up back then?
Well, I think we were waking up. We just didn't have the ... connected yet.
Well, like we always say, we had all the puzzle pieces. We just needed the picture of the puzzle to put it all together.
Yep.
All right, the next one. Sufficient, firm, but loving counsel given by elders. Question mark. TG,
Well,
I don't know what publication that is.
Well, but isn't sufficient, firm, but loving counsel, isn't that a matter of opinion as to how much is sufficient but firm and loving counsel? I mean, how many times does a brother need to have sufficient, firm, but loving counsel given by elders? How many times?
Well, the first time is like, quit abusing children. Here's the scriptural guidelines.
Okay, so what about the second and third time? Or like I was told by a prominent circuit overseer, brother so-and-so, brother Brooks, you leave brother so-and-so alone.
Yeah, we're running out of battery, so I got to hurry and finish these. Basis to show extra consideration because of faithfully serving for many years. So if an elder who's been serving faithfully for 50 years gets extra consideration about being deleted for abusing children,
yeah.
And they give the reference to the Elder's Manual, Chapter 3, Paragraph 22. So you get extra consideration if you've been, an elder for longer. Okay? And do the brothers agree with the decision? Oy vey.
I'm sure it's done by vote, like everything else, Watchtower.
Yep. Well, thank you everybody for sticking it out on that long one. I know there was a lot of boring stuff. Thank you for sticking around. But I mean, I feel personally that these manuals that the elders get, that the circuit overseers get, the branch manuals, the circuit assembly manuals, any organization manuals, I think these are really important to show how the inner workings of the organization works.
And it's important to talk to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that have come out and have woken up, because they're going to tell you, not most of the time, they don't follow these directions anyways, because you have a body of elders that has their own little personality. We saw that directly in Wisconsin with Brother Viagratai. He was the presiding overseer for 15 years, so he became the controller of what goes on among the body of elders. If he didn't like somebody, then he would convince others, you know what, we're not going to appoint so-and-so. He's not going to tell you they don't like him, but he's going to have a personal vendetta against a certain brother. And that will be reflected in the body of elders. For instance, when I asked to read the Watchtower.
Well, I was just going to say, I know where you're going with this, because my little brother was an elder in that congregation and friends with the P.O., Brother Viagratai, and my little brother, was angry at us for who knows what at the time, and he tells them,
Well, anyhow, I guess it's dead.
Battery's dead. So you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Bye.